No. You know what? That's it. I'm done. I quit. I give up. I tried. I really tried.
What's the matter with you, huh? Subscribe already.
I've given up on comic book movies and TV shows.
She's gonna be speaking a lot of y'all languages because she gave up way before it was popular to give up.
Well, what happened was we were watching Endgame, and then the Captain Marvel movie came out, and I was like, oh, this is what we're doing. And then we watched the other Endgame movie, and I was like, yeah, it's over now. Because, right, that's the end.
And then they kept going.
No, nothing came after that. What other movie did we watch? Oh, it was Wonder Woman, 1984. I think that's when I legit tapped out.
And that's warranted. That is warranted because God, I haven't watched it since that night, and I'm gonna stay there. We didn't watch any of the Disney shows. No Black Widow.
Like, I liked the movies before. I would maybe watch some of the TV shows. I tried to watch the DC TV shows, but then I don't remember what season it was in, but an arrow fell off the mountain, and then the lady healed him with tea, and I was like, what the fuck is happening? I couldn't get back into it after that. And then Disney took over Marvel, which I actually didn't think was a bad choice because obviously Disney has a lot of money, and money is great for making entertaining movies. But the problem is that Disney acts like the corporation that it is, right? And so it's obviously a lot of just cash grabs, and I don't like the idea of having all these TV shows in between movies that if you don't watch the whole TV show, you might not understand everything going on. I think that's bullshit.
That's bad enough because when we had the Netflix shows and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., sure, yes, obviously it's better if you're familiar with the material and seen the movies, but you can just watch the shows and just like them for the shows. Right. But now it's the same way they build Captain Marvel, where they said you have to watch this or you're just gonna be completely lost when the next thing come out. Right. That's bad enough. But then to add insult to injury, the required reading is terrible half the time. Yeah. It's like, oh, I'm in this class that I like, but then I have to take this supplementary study session, and it's 4 hours of listening to Ben Stein read the back of a cereal box.
Yeah.
And then you got to get that for 2 seconds or something. Like WandaVision started off well, but whether you like the resolution of that or not, you have to watch that, and then they hit you with a Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, just to use an example, and then you say, oh well, there's the evolution of that, and then you go to it and you just go from shit to shit.
I also, in addition to that, I felt like the universe was getting too big. Don't get me wrong, they can have as many movies as they want, and I think that's a good thing because the more heroes you have, the more heroes there are for people to relate to. But because they all became so intertwined, it felt like a little bit much because I never watched the Ant-Man and Wasp movies, and I never watched Doctor Strange, and I know how integral Doctor Strange is to the movies, but I have no interest in. He's a time-based hero. I have time travel issues and I have multiverse issues, and I hate comic book multiverses because they're stupid, but he's integral to the story now, and that makes me want to watch it even less. And then they just made weird decisions, like the whole Captain Marvel thing we talked about, but there are tons of women that were already on the Avengers team that could have, just had a fucking movie. But no, when do we get Black Widow is after she died. Because that makes sense.
Yeah, because isn't that when you're invested in a character's journey the most, after they're already dead?
Got closure with the character already. And now y'all want to give... Anyway, whatever. I don't care.
It don't matter. None of this matters.
Those are now actually core elements of the MCU. Because Loki was all about time travel, and now everything is multiverse.
Once you start messing with time in the way that Doctor Strange messes with time, then it really gets into that comic book territory where nobody dies, nothing ever really changes, nothing is ever permanent because you just roll the clock back, go to a different universe, pick a different time stream. It's like, once Superman flies around the world once to turn time back, then there's no point in anything because there's never going to be any real stakes in the same way it was before. And especially when they went so hard with Endgame, obviously they killed off 2 main characters and then one got old. It was obviously more so for the actors than it was for the storyline, but it still felt like a very real and final ending to something. So to add in the multiverse thing, I feel like it's so unnecessary for a movie verse versus a comic book universe. At least with the comic books, I can kind of understand because they want to keep writing the same characters, and if you do that for decades and decades and decades, you need to be able to go back, right?
From the perspective of being able to write something in perpetuity,
Yeah.
you run out of stuff to do. That's why every major comic universe has an afterlife, the ability to travel through time, and multiverses. You know, Nightcrawler dies in the comics. Oh, sorry. Oh, it's fine. He'll just find a way to come back to life and get another body. Flash runs himself out of existence. Oh, it's fine, because there's another universe where that Flash still exists. And even if not, there's like 10 other Flashes. So it's one of those things where, like it or not, there's precedence and it makes sense to some extent for comic books. They usually come out with a lot of frequency, which means you can get a few dozen stories and storylines in the span of years. You're gonna just keep running through stuff. But versus these movies have been coming out since 2008, and look how long it took Iron Man to die.
Right. It's a combination of like time, but it's also the actors. And it's not just that the actors age, but they come out of popularity too. Like, let's be realistic. You want to inject new life into movie franchises over time. And like, there's obviously a right and a wrong way to do it, but Captain Marvel was the wrong way to do it. It just was not the right way to introduce a character into a long-standing franchise. Whereas Black Panther was done really, really well. Introducing the character before his movie, getting us a little bit invested first, tying him into the team first, not giving him all these random cameos in older movies where he clearly wasn't there or whatever. Just so stupid.
What do you mean? You didn't want Captain Marvel to be where the Avengers come from?
Absolutely not. You can suck my ass.
There's right and wrong ways to do it. And then I think with like Batman and Robin and the Robins and the Bat family is like a really good example of like just throwing a character in there. They just become popular. You just wake up and it's a new Robin. And you're like, everyone loves this Robin. I mean, like Damian, he is his son, but also in a weird way. It's not like he was married and they had sex. Did they have sex? Didn't he just take his DNA and put it in that well?
That's a good question. I actually don't know the answer. I know in one of the movies, I think she was like drugged, like date raped.
Oh, really? That's not terrible at all.
Yeah, that was one of the newer movies, was that Talia date raped Batman.
That is awful. And they raised him as an assassin, which is why he's an asshole.
Cause he's perfect, like father, like son.
No one will ever beat Dick Grayson. Like, Nightwing has my heart for life.
And that's not just because he has DC's juiciest booty.
I mean, it's not just because of that, but it doesn't hurt that he has a juicy booty.
Okay, so let's do a little thought experiment here.
Okay.
Let's say you were lead writer. Endgame just ended. How do you follow it up? We're not stopping it. You do not have the option to just end the MCU. That is not an option. Who you put in the driver's seat is up to you, but the MCU must continue. How do you do it?
X-Men for a couple movies. Wanda is so badass, and I think Emily Olsen does a good job with her. I think the character's really good, and having her meet Magneto, and then having Professor X come interact with the other Avengers who have obviously just gotten over this very traumatic event to try to stop her would be a really cool, fun, and interesting way to revamp the X-Men and get it going in a good direction. And it also would combine characters that a lot of comic book people really love, pull everybody back into the theater.
Yeah, weird how that works. We just concluded the biggest cinematic event of cinema history. Why not follow it up with, I don't know, the most popular fucking superhero team of your entire brand?
Yeah,
who
exactly.
in previous decades just printed money?
Right, and
I don't know.
And because 3 bigs passed away, so if they brought in some X-Men characters, that would be a really great way to like distract from the sadness of losing those characters. You know?
Right.
If they had planned it out right, they could have even had Wanda do essentially the same thing that she did in the TV show, but on a bigger scale for a movie, and had Iron Man and Black Widow and Captain America appear in the movie in her illusion.
I love how you found a way to incorporate the X-Men into the universe that wasn't just having Miss Marvel be a mutant and have Professor X show up in an alternate universe version of the Avengers so he can get his neck snapped.
Wait, did that happen?
That was in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness.
Oh my gosh, no!
Wanda was wilding out. When they was dimension hopping, they met the Illuminati, which is like alt Avengers, and Professor X was their leader. And Wanda took everybody out. Professor X was like the last one, and he was like, "Nah, you ain't gonna beat me, bitch, because I got the mind powers." And then she like, "What mind powers, bitch?" And then she snapped his neck in the dream, which snapped his real neck, and he died.
First of all, no. That doesn't... No. That isn't really... I don't like that.
That's too damn bad!
This is what they want for all of us.
They put him in the 90s yellow floating wheelchair and everything from the show just to kill him.
How would he not have any... Whatever. Okay, whatever. This is why I don't want to watch any of these fucking movies, because they don't know what they're doing and no one cares, okay? Whatever. That's so stupid. He wouldn't let another mutant kill the rest of his friends. That would never happen.
Talk to the people at Marvel, because apparently they think he would.
I'm so frustrated, and I don't have anything to do with those emotions. I feel like my idea is way better, first of all. And it doesn't even make sense not to do it, because Wanda already exists. Even if you wanted to do multi-universe, another really perfect way to set it up would be to have the MCU Wanda meet the X-Men universe that was separate Quicksilver and have them interact.
Yeah,
that would be amazing.
And actually do it, because they teased us in WandaVision by having that actor show up and be like, they literally did that. Like in her like her little bubble pocket universe, he showed up and he was like, he's another universe's Quicksilver. And we're like, oh shit, they're doing it. This is how they bring in X-Men. They got the actual Quicksilver from the X-Men movies. Turns out that was just an actor, like in universe. He was just a dude that was in there playing a role.
Stupid. You did tell me that, but
he was under the the mind thing. It
would be so perfect if the X-Men characters just came from a different universe. And when they get here, Magneto finds Wanda, and obviously he feels like this Wanda is easier to manipulate, so he tries to manipulate her, because that's what Magneto does with his children, into being a villain, and then she becomes an anti-hero for a movie or two, whatever. Instead of having it just be a TV show, but really builds up like entire world. Maybe even recreating the country where she was born. I don't know what country it was. I don't remember.
Yeah, Sokovia, I want to say.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there. Maybe even rebuilds it, right? And just totally recreates it.
Right. And then you know what he could also do? Because since she's building up this country, Sokovia, this could also play into Magneto's plan, because you know he got Krakoa. So he could have that could be Wanda recreating her home, and then he could also low-key make this like a mutant sanctuary.
Yeah, I think he would manipulate her to build it. She would think that he's building it to help her recreate her life before, but he would be doing it to be like,
you're like, nah,
I'm just gonna do what I want to do.
This mine now.
Magneto's one of those characters that I don't love him. I don't love him.
I mean,
I'm not against everything he believes in, but he's just a character that I feel like is not super likable.
Which is true, it's a good thing.
Yeah, no, he's intentionally not likable. Like, I don't think it's accidental at all. But yeah, he's just one of those characters where you like, some of the stuff he says is like fine. And then sometimes you're just like, but why is he talking?
Well, why is he everything?